The scent of old books and fresh coffee filled our apartment. A comfort I'd grown to love in the years I'd shared with Liam. He was my rock, my steady calm in a world of chaos. His quiet strength and unwavering support had always been the foundation of our life together. That's why, when he said the words, they hit me with the force of a physical blow. "You can't go to the wedding." The words were spoken with a quiet finality that was more unsettling than any shout. I stared at him, my coffee cup halfway to my lips, trying to process what he had just said. We were packing. The small carry-on bag I was filling with a dress and a pair of heels was sitting on the floor between us. My childhood friend, Chloe, was getting married in 3 days. This wasn't a suggestion or a question. It was a refusal. "What?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Liam, what are you talking about? This is Chloe, my best friend since we were 6. I'm her maid of honor. I'm giving a speech. I've had this date circled on my calendar for 2 years." He didn't look at me. His gaze was fixed on the city skyline outside our window. His jaw set in that way I knew meant he was holding something back. "I know," he said, his voice low. "I'm sorry, but you can't go." "Why not?" I demanded, the confusion in my heart giving way to a sharp, hot anger. "Give me a reason, Liam, a real one. Is this about money? Are you sick? Did something happen?" He turned to me then, and his eyes, usually a warm, gentle brown, were dark and full of a profound sadness I couldn't comprehend. "I can't. I wish I could. I have a bad feeling about it. I don't think you should be there." "A bad feeling," I scoffed, throwing my hands up in exasperation. "A bad feeling? Liam, people get married every day. It's a wedding, not a heist. What on earth could possibly be so bad about it that you're willing to make me miss the most important day of my best friend's life? You're being completely irrational." The argument that followed was unlike any we had ever had. My words were sharp, fueled by betrayal and hurt. His were quiet, firm, and maddeningly vague. He wouldn't budge, he wouldn't explain. He just kept repeating, like a broken record, "You can't go. I can't let you." The more I pushed, the more he retreated into himself, his face a mask of impenetrable calm that only served to infuriate me further. I was left with a choice: betray my friend or defy my partner. The decision felt impossible. How could I face Chloe, knowing I'd abandoned her in her most important moment? And how could I look at Liam, knowing he had so little faith in me, in us? I felt like a stranger in my own home, in my own relationship. I had never questioned his judgment before. Now, it was all I could do. I didn't pack. The bag sat on the floor, an unspoken accusation. I spent the next 2 days in a silent rage, answering his attempts at conversation with monosyllabic grunts. The phone rang constantly with texts and calls from Chloe, asking about my arrival time, asking if I was okay. I couldn't bring myself to answer. What was I supposed to say? My partner has a bad feeling, so I'm not coming. The thought was absurd, humiliating. On the morning of the wedding, I woke up alone in our bed. Liam was gone. The silence in the apartment was deafening, a stark contrast to the festive commotion I knew was happening miles away. I felt a profound, aching loneliness. The silence was louder than any of the arguments we'd had. My anger had cooled, leaving behind a hollow ache of sadness. I was missing my friend's wedding. I was fighting with the love of my life. I was completely alone. That's when I saw it. Tucked beneath the coffee pot was a small, folded piece of paper. His handwriting, neat and deliberate, was on the outside. It said, "Read this if you still want to go." My heart pounded against my ribs. Was this it? His explanation? His apology? I unfolded it with trembling hands. The note was brief, and it didn't give me the answers I wanted. Instead, it was a list of names and places, with a single phone number at the bottom. The number was unlisted, and the names were of people I'd never heard of. There was a name, though, that made my breath catch in my throat. Marcus Thorne. The same name I had seen on the fake architect's driver's license in Mark's story. A man who was wanted in 4 different states for financial fraud, embezzlement, and a handful of other charges. He conned women rich, successful women married them, stole their money, and disappeared. My blood ran cold. Was this a sick joke? Was Liam trying to tell me something with this? I felt a surge of adrenaline, a frantic need to understand. I grabbed my phone and dialed the number at the bottom of the list. A man with a deep, authoritative voice answered on the 3rd ring. "Who is this?" he asked, his tone guarded. My name is Sarah," I stammered, my mind racing. "I'm calling about a note I found. It had the name Marcus Thorne on it, and I'm not sure what it means." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I thought he was going to hang up. Then, he spoke again, his voice softer, more careful. "Where did you get this number?" "From Liam," I said, the words a desperate plea for understanding. "He wouldn't let me go to my best friend's wedding. And then I found this." The man on the other end sighed, a long, weary sound. "Put Liam on the phone, please." "I can't," I said, tears starting to well in my eyes. "He's not here." Another silence. This one was even longer. "All right," the man said, a new note of caution in his voice. "Listen to me, Sarah. You need to stay where you are. Do not leave the apartment. Don't open the door for anyone." "Is Liam with you?" "No," I choked out, a sob escaping my lips. "He left. He just left me here. I don't understand." "I'm coming over," the man said, his voice now a firm command. "Stay put. I'll be there in 10 minutes. The next 10 minutes were the longest of my life. My mind reeled with possibilities. Was Liam in danger? Was he involved in something illegal? Was he a spy? Was the Marcus Thorne name a coincidence? When the doorbell rang, I hesitated for a moment, but the man's authoritative voice on the phone had given me an irrational sense of trust. I opened the door, and there stood a man in a crisp suit, his face grim. He wasn't a police officer. His eyes scanned the hallway, then he stepped inside, his movements quick and professional. "I'm Special Agent Davis," he said, pulling out a badge. "I work with Liam. He told me to come get you if he didn't check in by a certain time." My world tilted on its axis. Liam was a secret agent, a spy. The idea was so preposterous, it was almost laughable. But the man in front of me was serious, and his eyes held the same profound sadness I had seen in Liam's. "I need you to come with me," he said, his voice gentle. "We need to get you somewhere safe." "What's going on?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What about the wedding? What about Liam?" "The wedding," he said, his face etched with a mix of grief and exhaustion, was the target of an assassination. The groom, Chloe's, is a high-ranking member of a criminal organization. They were going to use the wedding as an opportunity to take him out, and anyone who got in the way. My stomach lurched, and ... and Liam. Agent Davis looked away, his jaw tightening. Liam was undercover. He was trying to stop it. He was working with the local police, but they had a leak. He was the only one who knew the full extent of the danger. He couldn't tell you because your life would be in immediate danger if they found out you knew. My mind raced back to our last conversation. His frantic pleas, his desperate sadness. He wasn't just worried about a bad feeling. He was trying to save my life. He was trying to keep me out of a war zone. My anger, my hurt, my confusion. It all melted away, replaced by a profound, heart-wrenching guilt. I had been so mad at him, so selfish, so focused on my own feelings that I hadn't seen the terrifying truth hiding just beneath the surface. I got in his car, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. He drove me to a secure location, a small, unassuming office building in the middle of a bustling downtown. He led me into a room where a television was on, and a news report was playing. The headlines flashed on the screen. Wedding postponed amidst security scare. Groom arrested for ties to organized crime. The newscaster was detailing the events of the day, a story that was a horrific mirror of what I had just been told. My childhood friend's perfect wedding had been a front for a criminal operation, a gathering of the most dangerous people in the city. The police had moved in, thanks to an anonymous tip from a source they would only refer to as Agent X. My tears finally came, not of sadness, but of a profound, overwhelming mix of emotions. Tears of shame, for all the ugly words I had thrown at Liam. Tears of relief, for the safety of my best friend and her family. Tears of fear, for the danger Liam had faced alone. And finally, tears of a deep, aching love for a man who had been willing to sacrifice his own happiness and my trust to keep me safe. He had chosen my well-being over our relationship, over his own safety, over everything. He had been a hero, and I had been too blind to see it. Agent Davis left me in the room, telling me he would get a message to Liam. He came back a few hours later, and his face was even grimmer than before. "He's alive," he said, his voice flat. "But he's in the hospital. He took a hit protecting a hostage." I didn't say anything. I just stood there, the words hanging in the air like a death sentence. Agent Davis led me to the car, and we drove in silence to a hospital. I was a different person in the car. The girl who had been so angry and selfish was gone, replaced by a woman consumed by fear, and by a love so profound it hurts. When I walked into the hospital room, Liam was there. He was pale, a bandage on his head, his arm in a sling. He looked at me, and his eyes held the same sad, gentle look they had had on the day he refused to let me go to the wedding. But there was also something new in them, something fragile and vulnerable. "You came," he whispered, a small, weary smile on his face. "Of course I came," I said, my voice thick with tears. "I'm so sorry, Liam. I'm so sorry I didn't trust you. I'm so sorry I was so selfish." He shook his head slowly. "Don't be. I knew you would be angry. I couldn't tell you. I had to protect you." I held his hand, my fingers tracing the lines on his palm. "You did," I whispered. "You did." The tears fell freely then, washing away the last of the anger, the doubt, the fear. They were tears of a love that was deeper and truer than anything I had ever known. A love that had been forged not in sunshine and laughter, but in the crucible of a terrifying secret, a selfless sacrifice, and an unwavering trust. My partner had refused to let me attend my childhood friend's wedding, and the truth I discovered later left me in tears, but it also left me with a love that would last a lifetime. We sat in the hospital room, the silence a different kind of loud now, filled with all the things we hadn't said. The sterile, white walls felt a world away from the chaos I had just learned about. It was no longer a personal fight about trust. It was a testament to his selflessness. He was just so ordinary, so Liam. It was impossible to reconcile the calm man lying in a hospital bed with the hero who had single-handedly taken down a criminal empire. "Tell me," I finally whispered, my voice raw from crying. "Tell me everything. I need to understand." He shifted, wincing slightly as the movement pulled at his bandaged arm. "There's not much to tell," he said, his voice soft. "It was just a job." "It was not just a job," I insisted, my hand tightening on his. "You were willing to risk everything. Our relationship, our life together. What kind of job is that?" He looked at me, and his eyes, though tired, were clear. "The kind that saves lives, Sarah. The kind where a dozen innocent people don't get caught in the crossfire at a wedding." He paused, his gaze drifting to the window. "I'm part of a covert unit. We don't have badges or uniforms. We infiltrate. We gather intelligence. We stop things before they happen. Your job is to keep a secret, no matter the cost." My job was to get close to her to figure out his operation, and to find out how and when they were planning on moving their money, and the wedding. I asked, my voice a shaky whisper. The wedding was the perfect cover, the perfect trap. It was when all the major players would be in one place, celebrating, distracted. It's when a rival gang, one we'd been tracking for a while, decided to make their move. A full-scale assassination. I knew about it, but they had a leak. A mole in the police force. I couldn't trust anyone. It had to be a split-second decision. I knew I couldn't be there with you. If they found out you were connected to me, they wouldn't hesitate to use you as a bargaining chip. I had to get you out. He looked back at me, his gaze pleading for understanding. I know it was cruel. I know it was selfish of me to just leave you with no explanation, but I had no choice. You're my world, Sarah. You are everything. And I couldn't let you get caught up in that. I had to protect you, even if it meant you hated me for the rest of your life. He closed his eyes for a moment, and I saw a single tear escape from the corner of his eye. I was terrified, not of the mission, not of getting caught, but of losing you, of you thinking I was a monster, a liar, a man who would throw away our life for some bad feeling. My heart shattered all over again, this time for his pain, for his loneliness, for the heavy, impossible burden he had carried. You're a hero, I said, the words a desperate plea for him to see himself as I did. You're not a monster. You saved my life, and you saved Chloe's. Just then, the door creaked open, and my friend stood there, Chloe. She looked exhausted, her makeup smeared, her beautiful wedding gown replaced with a simple shirt and jeans. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and when she saw me, she ran to me, pulling me into a bone-crushing hug. I am so sorry. I sobbed into her shoulder. I should have been there. I should have trusted you. Are you insane? She choked out, pulling back to look at me, her face a mixture of relief and fury. Don't you ever say that again. Don't you dare. You have no idea what happened. The police, the screaming, the terror, ... I was scared out of my mind. The whole thing was a nightmare. I would have died if you had been there." She turned to Liam, her eyes widening with a sudden, new understanding. "He did it," she whispered, her voice full of a profound awe. "They said it was a tip-off from Agent X. They said he saved everyone. He was a monster. A real monster. Liam, you saved my life. You saved all of our lives." She ran to his bedside, her voice now a desperate mix of gratitude and relief. He just nodded, his face pale and tired. "It's over now, Chloe, you're safe." After she left, the room was quiet again. I sat by Liam's side, my hand in his, watching him sleep. I thought about the words I had thrown at him. I had called him irrational, crazy, and selfish. I had been so convinced of my own righteous anger that I could unsee the love hiding beneath his frantic pleas. I had been so caught up in my own little world of hurt and betrayal that I failed to see the danger he was facing, the sacrifice he was making. He had been willing to lose me to save me. That was a kind of love I had never known existed. A love that didn't just stand by your side in the good times, but a love that would push you away, throw away its own happiness, just to keep you safe. He had been a hero, not in a movie star way, but in the most profoundly human way. He was a man who saw a terrible evil and chose to fight it, even if it meant he had to be alone. He woke up hours later, and I was still there, my head resting on his hand. He didn't say anything. He just squeezed my fingers gently, his touch a silent promise. And in that moment, I knew. Our love was no longer just the comfort of old books and fresh coffee. It was something stronger, something that had been forged in the fire of a terrible secret and emerged, scarred but unbroken, on the other side. My partner had refused to let me attend my childhood friend's wedding, and the truth I discovered later left me in tears. But it also left me with a love that would last a lifetime.